This is where true intimacy begins. Listen, know, and love the body. My name is Tara Galliano. This is Rediscovering My Body. Hello. Today I wanted to speak about too muchness and not enoughness. And I had been writing my book last month and began writing about too muchness. And since then, I've seen a mentor of mine come out with a video on that. I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about it. So I see that this is a theme and it's a continuum, too muchness and not enoughness. And the opportunity, of course, is how to step off and be purple, right? Because you don't want to vacillate between the two, unless you do. But it can be taxing. And so I wanted to share with you a personal story because for me, how that comes up is it really comes up around this value of my own time and ultimately my own self-worth. And that has been a potent lesson for me. So I wanted to share that with you. So self-worth and this continuum of too muchness and not enoughness. Well, oftentimes in the past, in my previous life, I lived on this continuum and I was told that I was too loud, too boisterous, my laughter was too much. And I lived in this realm of too muchness, not being able to show up fully as myself. And then I began to live in the other end of the spectrum, which was not enoughness and not believing in myself, not believing the value that I brought to things, not knowing the value that I really brought and that I have. And then it began to diminish how I used my internal resources, like my time and my attention. So recently, because I thought I was done with this, I had an opportunity to revisit this because that's how we learn these lessons again and to see if they really stuck. And what I noticed was I was saying yes to a lot of things, even though I wanted to do these things and even though they felt juicy and the collaborations felt like wonderful opportunities. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them, I was saying yes. And then I would check in and I'd be with that yes. And when the waves of emotions landed, I'd recognize months later that it was actually a no. And so then I need to renegotiate that opportunity with that collaborator, or more specifically, my former husband asking for money for my daughter. Like, why would she not ask me for that? That one I just didn't even respond no to because that was really clear to me. But the most enticing one was a request from a mentor to volunteer in their program. So there was no remuneration for my energy. And I thought, well, this is good. It's goodwill. It's a volunteer opportunity. I love this work. And after the first 4 hours in the first week, I went to sleep and my body was like, no way, no way. This is way too much time to be spending on another program that doesn't directly benefit me, my work, and my teachings. And I'd already signed a contract and I'd already said yes. And for me, my word is such a powerful agreement and I do my best to follow through on my word all the time. And what I recognized that there was no way, no how I can ignore my body's reaction because it was kind of violent. It was like, this does not feel good. I couldn't sleep that night. I tossed and turned and I felt kind of sick to my stomach. And that had nothing to do with my mentor, but it had to do with me not honoring me. So can you relate, right? How many times have you disregarded that internal message that said, don't do this. Don't give up your time. Value your time and do with it what you will, not what you want to do, what you think you should do, but what you will, what is absolutely right for you. And oftentimes what I find is that wisdom comes through the body. So that's what I want to speak further about with you today. Because what I learned in that moment of saying yes to a lot of different things, but specifically to my mentor, was that there's a lot of power in saying no. No is a complete sentence. No is an opportunity to be with yourself. So no is a complete sentence. That's really the most powerful thing I can leave you with today and begin with today. Because oftentimes we say yes to too many things, not valuing our time, not valuing our attention, overcommitting things, spreading ourselves too thin, and then we don't show up in the way that we want to show up. We don't give ourselves time to transition from this activity to the next. And that is to our detriment. We have the opportunity to actually overflow with our energy in profound and joyous, boisterous, loving ways that supports not only ourselves, but others. And when we don't do that, we're sharing with others from the lowest of low energy, from the basest energy, from a depleted energy is really what I find, is that oftentimes we're absolutely depleted and feeling like we need to give more. That's not where I was coming from at this point, but I have absolutely been there, where my adrenals have been shot, my thyroid was burnt out, and I was exhausted. So I just want to let you know that there's a lot of power in saying no, and that there's absolute discomfort when you begin to try that on. So I always invite people to practice in the mirror and begin by saying, no, I'm not cooking dinner tonight. No, I'm not walking your dog. No, I'm not making the bed. No, I'm not going to take on that extra assignment. No, that deadline does not work for me. And the simple answer, no. If you're extra polite and trying to let go of that, you can just say, no, thank you. But I invite you to sink into the power, the clarity, and the succinctness of just no. So being with that, knowing your own self-worth, and living more in no. Because you can always say yes later on. And when you live in the world of yes, you're often giving yourself away. That's what I want to leave you with today. So I hope that's a helpful lesson on self-worth and too muchness and not enoughness. And thank you so much for joining me today. Much love.